Hello there, Patricia here. Welcome. So glad to have you join me here today as we get started on asking the question of what have you done for you lately? Right? A little flashback to Janet Jackson, yes, but with a little different focus. And it's really about taking stock of your self care time. And I'm not talking about the last time you went to get your nails done, ladies, or when you went to the spa, or how you went to the gym and worked out, ladies and guys, whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what have you done lately to feed your soul at a deeper level, not just a superficial one? And what have you done solely for the sake of doing it for yourself? It's reflection time, it's check-in time, and it's a little bit of history and background for myself on some of the things that have really, made a difference over the years for myself, and recognizing the importance of setting time aside and not letting it be stolen from me by other people and other things. And there is some self accountability in that, as well as how I have helped colleagues and clients down through the years to address this same issue, because everyone has this issue, especially women. We absolutely have this issue of handing over our time and our power to life and people in it, and how we have to take it back. So, we're going to talk about that a little bit today. But before we get to that, please remember to hit the like and subscribe button if you end up enjoying this conversation, and also please share it out, because this channel is all about having conversations about real life leadership moments, about real life, professional relationship moments, and hello, personal ones too, and what it looks like to, take your power back, to act in a more empowered way, even when it's scary, and making sure we take care of ourselves in the process, because it's really, really important. Because if that foundation of self care is not laid out, the rest of it's eventually going to crumble. And listen enough to some of my videos, and you will hear as I share some of those stories down through time. Okay, so back to this question of what have you done for yourself lately, and why does it matter? And why does it matter that it's not just the surface level? Because the reality is, um, doing the quote superficial things have generally been aligned, especially for women, with, oh, you're taking good care of yourself, getting the massages, getting your nails and feet done, getting your hair done. And all of that can be very important, right? Because there's some level of needing to do that to help with maybe your confidence, or just with how you present yourself, particularly professionally, but just personally. But the truth of the matter is, if you feel like crap on the inside because you are starving yourself of what you really need, you're just basically a Barbie doll with nothing inside. I mean, dare I say that? I did say that. I did say that. And that's not what we want to be. Like, we don't want to be this hollow version of ourselves. And that happens so often and so quickly, because, particularly, I'm talking to the women here, as we grow older, get more work and jobs, get families, get married, spouses, partners, whatever, every time there are chips at yourself, where you're giving something to someone else for work, for family, And that means that's something that's not being held for yourself. And this is going to sound really selfish. And guess what? It's okay. Self care is selfish. And I have to remind people of that all the time. Like, good self care is selfish. Because if you do not have strong self care um, habits, ultimately, you're not going to be able to take care of anyone else because you're not taking care of yourself first. Been there, done that, right? Or it becomes really problematic. And so, examples of that down through the years, I mean, I've always been someone who's really involved in the community and things like that. So, before marriage, before kids, you know, I was always involved in some community activity. And I would have stuff, whether it was church related or related to my profession. I'm a lawyer by training. And so I was really active in bar related. Those are activities that are related to lawyer stuff. And I was really all into that. And that was a way that I stayed engaged. Like, I care about giving back. So that was a piece of me taking care of myself, is being able to give back. Now, there becomes a line that gets crossed, and I crossed it several times because, hello, burnout. So there is the line even with that, because it wasn't just about feeding my soul with giving. It was also recognizing when it started taking more from me than it was giving me, the experiences, right? So there's something to be explored there about, well, what if something, that you thought was giving you and feeding you starts to take more? Well, then that's a boundary issue that's been crossed, and it's something that you have to sit down and engage in some reflection on, because it's really important, right? And I'll talk about that in another video when I talk about how my commitments to volunteer and board service and things like that have shifted over the years as a result of recognizing that. But when it comes to straight self care things, one of the things I always did, always had hobbies. There was always stuff I was doing for fun that I enjoyed, right? Whether it was books. I mean, I've always, always, always loved my books. Like, my books are my family. They were my family long for anyone else. I've always enjoyed music, and as I grew older, I learned to enjoy live music more. And I live in the city, that labels itself the live music capital of the world. I don't know about all that, but there's live music all the time, right? And different arts. So I've enjoyed those types of things and been able to engage with them through cultural arts things, through my church, through opportunities from professional, all of that. So that, again, some of those dual purpose things, because there's stuff that I like to do anyways. And so that was a way. Then being exposed and learning new hobbies. I remember that literally was at my first job out of law school, my first full time job out of law school, where my office mate, who was not a lawyer, she was the legislative director for our organization at the time, and she turned me on to some stamping and scrapbooking type things and some other hobbies that she had that were really, much more artsy and crafty. And I was like hooked, hooked. I have all the stuff to prove it too. Years and years. I have a collection, truly a collection of craft items and things that I've just built up over the years. Like, I haven't bought significantly in a while, and you could not tell, because that's how much stuff I have. So that's a different conversation about getting rid of some things. But I loved it, and it allowed me to express myself in another way, creatively. Another thing that I wasn't thinking about at the time as being something as an outlet that I cared a great bit deal about was cooking and sharing meals with friends and family. And there was this group of us through college. I mean, oh my gosh, we fed each other. Literally, we would get together for Sunday dinners or, barbecues and stuff. This is still in college, not even like once we're out in the workforce, but that's what we would do. And man, there were some old friends of mine. There were some guys, they would put your grandmothers to shame. I know that's strong language, but it was true. And we would get together and we would cook for each other. And that was something that I really latched onto and took with me forward into my growing years and older years. So all of those different types of things that I'm looking back on now, and I'm mentioning that because I also note when they fell off and where a major shift happened, because all of these things that I loved doing all of a sudden were no more. And I'm talking about it because it matters. So then, as I got married, I still had those different things. I now have a spouse who has his things. He's an athlete. He was an athlete, still engaged with a bunch of stuff, with sports. I did some sports through um, through middle school and high school, but really just kind of, I'd enjoy watching, mainly probably basketball and going to a few games. I was not like this. I was an I was a pretty avid basketball player basketball fan for a second there. Go Lakers. Um, but it just kind of, that would just ebb and flow, right? That wasn't my thing that I was obsessed about. And so I learned about other things. I learned about other sports because my spouse was involved in it, especially football. And I knew that was going to be a part of our lives because between the two of us, I was like genetics and and uh and work ethic and whatever. I'm like, we're going to have kids who are athletes or something of the sort. So we need to have a conversation about what that looks like now. Like I knew that early on, and we did have a conversation about that before we got married. And so then the kids came along. My girl child first, my boy child second, and absolutely, my girl child was a dancer, an academic, doing all the things. My son is an athlete, literally just put a ball, a club, or a bat or something in that kid's hand, and he could do it. It was just crazy, literally coming out of the womb, and also a musician, right? He is a percussionist and literally was, playing the drums at age 3, 4, 5. So all of these things that still allowed me to then start feeding into them, right? I'm trying to support them and their interests and what they do. And maybe as a result, I get a little deeper in some of the things I care about. My daughter developed a love for reading and books. So that was something we could share together. My son, like I said, was a musician and naturally curious, especially as a young boy. So his love for science and things like that, um, I fed that for him. And as things just continued to go, I was also building up in my career and getting lots more responsibilities and lots more things were going on. And there came a time where I was still heavily involved because one of the other things I did was get aligned with music was through church. So I sang in the choir. I'd sang in the choir at church since I was 5 years old. I literally grew up doing that. And so that's something, again, that I've always done my entire life and an outlet. I mean, I was part of a fantastic choir all through college, one in college, one outside of college, and we both traveled. I mean, it was fantastic experiences of things that I loved to do. All right. And as things developed, as my family grew, things started shifting. And at some point, I was like, well, I can't. I would love to still sing in the choir, but I can't. Like, it's hard to get down to rehearsals on a weeknight when I've got kids who are in sports, you know, uh, who are in sports, who are in dance lessons 4 or 5 nights a week. I mean, like all of these things. So slowly that backed away and I was not doing that as much. I was still doing, I discovered this other paper crafting thing, and I was a part of this group, and I started doing that a lot. And then that location that was hosting those things shut down. So I wasn't doing that as much, and I was having to go find other places and things to do it, or I was doing it by myself. So that, kind of start weaning back. And it just got to this point where the pressures of life and the job and job changes with myself, job changes with my husband, all of these things going on, becoming bigger and bigger and all consuming. And in the process, I was spending less and less and less time doing the things I loved just for me. And I can see it clearly now. I couldn't see it before because I could say now, like, how was I being able to manage all of those really stressful things that were going on? And it was because I had these other outlets that brought me joy just for me. But when I started eliminating those things, because I'm like, well, I got to really focus on this problem with work. I've got to really focus on this problem with this client when I was, now working for myself, my kids, and all of these things, all of those, all of those hobbies, all of those experiences, like just got whittled down to almost nothing. I would have books on the shelves that had gathered dust. I still went to the bookstore and bought stuff. And I would buy magazines. I kind of regressed to my law school days when I didn't have time for reading books. So I would have tons of magazine subscriptions and I'd read those. So I went to that, right? I reverted to that. Uh, my scrapbook and paper craft things. I had all those things. And the only time I dipped into it, if it was for something for my kids, right? With their school, with their group, something. I was a leader in Girl Scouts and supporting them, whatever. Like, but it wasn't just for me, just for fun, right? I was doing these things. I tried to hang on, it's like by the skin of my teeth. I tried because I would make handmade cards for my clients or for people. And that was my way of still trying. But even to the point where that whittled away. So all of these things, I wasn't going out to, hear live music as much. All of these things whittled away to where there I was, a shell of myself, and the stress of all of that other stuff was literally just eating me up and about took me out. Literally, not just figuratively, like literally. Developed some chronic health issues, all of that stuff. My plants, I forgot about my plants. I didn't have my plants anymore, all of that stuff. And I was like clawing myself. I'm like, I've got to claw my way out of it. There are so many other things going on, but I recognized I've got to, like, I have to take control of this, and I have to bring myself out one step at a time, one thing at a time. Because how am I advising my clients to keep their hobbies and their personal interests alive if I'm not doing it for myself? And I don't do double standards like that, right? Like, I don't preach one thing and do something else. So that's not what I do. I'm not that person. So I had to start living and taking my own advice again. The very thing that I advise. And why do I advise that? Because of what I just described to you. You could have these huge transitions going on, whether it's life transitions or career transitions. You have to have something that keeps you grounded. What are those things? That have no affiliation with your work, that have no affiliation with what you're doing for someone else. Sometimes there's a little overlap, but when you get to a point, like, you don't even want the overlap. Like, what are you doing just for you? And I had to claw my way back because, and what was the impetus for it? Because I was having these horrible stress related episodes that was like, no. That's a no. When the doctor's like, well, you need to lower your stress levels. Are you kidding me? Do you know what my life looks like? Are you kidding me? But my body was telling me that as well. And it just became necessary. So that involved me setting stronger boundaries around certain things and people, and not letting things or people consume the space that was meant for me. Y'all, this is some good stuff. I'm just, man, I just like not letting those things or people consume the space that's meant for me. Put those boundaries up. So that meant maybe releasing some relationships that were no longer working, personal ones and professional ones. Releasing some organizations that were no longer working because I was feeling pulled from as opposed to giving to, right? Even with my immediate family, of like resetting boundaries. I'm like, hey, you guys are going to have to step up on some of this. I've been carrying some of this weight that I should not have been carrying. And now you guys, because you're old enough now, you're not little kids, right? That we're not newlyweds. We've been doing this a long time. And filling that time and space instead with things that I love just for me again. One of the biggest moments of recognizing this and slowly turning this boat was when the pandemic hit in 2020, because it shut everything down. And remember, I just described, I have two really active kids. We personally were really active. And my daughter graduated from high school during that year and started college. So that means all of these things that she was doing that I was supporting her in, like there was no transition out of it. It just happened, like got cut off cold. It was very traumatic. It was traumatic for her. It was traumatic for me. And that's one of the first times when it really hit me and realized like how much I'd been giving to help. And would I do some of this again? Absolutely. So I'm not even saying I wouldn't do it. I would recognize sooner when I needed to pull back, right? Um, but that was the start of that shift. And again, something external happened to cause it, because I was straight up in the middle of lots of very stressful things at that time, beyond the pandemic. And so that was it. And then shifting and helping with my son, getting through high school during that time, my daughter through college during that time, but recognizing like I have to start making space for myself. And there's this time now, because guess what? There's one kid out of the house. You're not doing all of that other stuff. Like, what are you going to do now for you? And at first, the impetus is to go fill it with more of some of the other stuff that I was doing. And I was like, yeah, no, no, that doesn't work. Doesn't work. And so recognizing, like, okay, what can I start doing? And so literally, a few years back, it became being really deliberate. There were various things I read. One of the most impactful ones was The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, who literally I decided to work through that book, like treat it just like the full blown 3 month course that it is, because that's what it is. I will never tell anyone, like, don't try to sit down and read that book in a week and think you're going to. No, that's not how that works, because there's work to be done and about returning to who you are personally, whether you're creative or not. We all have creativity in us, but returning to that and exploring life and exploring things just for you. That was a huge moment for me, and working through some of those things. And then starting to, get back into some scrapbooking, getting back into actually putting, reading as a priority again, right? Getting the electronics out of our hands. Oh my gosh, that is the toughest part, right? Also, my greatest thing is the last oh, I don't know, has it been a year and a half, maybe 2 years of bringing plants back into my life. I had tried, but y'all, it was so bad. I couldn't, at one point, I could not keep an ivy alive. Now, this is coming from someone who literally used to have an apartment full of plants at one point in time when she lived alone. And I could not keep an ivy alive. I was like, this is so ridiculous. And that meant I had to care more for myself so that I could care for these things. And getting back into my gardening, I always have been gardening outside. Like all of these things that I enjoyed for me, and getting back into those things and starting to feed my soul again helped with all the rest, because then all of those chronic stress things started disappearing. Imagine that. Letting go, setting the boundaries. And it's like, wow. Uh, This is something, this is one of those books that I haven't written yet. Like another passion project that I haven't, that's on the list of things to do that I haven't quite done yet is the writing of the books. And this is one of them, is telling that story. And it's so powerful, and it's something that I've just really wanted to be able to share. And I've spent some time here because this is literally one of the reasons why I wanted to revive this channel, so that I could have more of these level of conversations about real life things that impacted how I did my work, that impacted how I raised my family, that impacted how I engaged with my community, and ultimately what those things look like as they impacted me. And so that's my story, and one that I will continue to share, with the question of what have you done for you lately, and what are you going to do right now today? What's your plan for the next day, for the next week, for the next month, to level up, taking better care of yourself? And I'm not talking about massages and pedicures. Those things do matter, especially if you're doing some nervous system regulation. That's a whole other conversation. Because, hey, I love me a good bubble bath in the middle of a weekday. That is pure joy for me. But it's right? It's not a one off. It's not, well, let me go take this quick vacation and you come back to the same nonsense. This is about changing your daily habits to focus more on you in small ways. Doesn't have to be big, giant ways. We love big and giant, but we're talking about every single day. What are you doing for yourself that is focusing on giving yourself joy, feeding your mental health, feeding your spiritual health, feeding your emotional health, just helping you enjoy life just because. Because the happier, not just happy, I don't want to term it in happiest, but the more you express yourself to create those moments of joy for yourself, the more that will feed. And guess what? That will flow out to others. You don't have to worry about giving it, it'll flow. But you gotta keep putting it in for yourself first. So I would love to hear from you about where you are on that journey, because it is a journey, y'all. And if you've had difficulties, especially in the midst of a huge career transition, like, do not give up hope, right? There is always the opportunity to make that shift. And if that's something you want to explore or talk a little bit more about, absolutely hit me up in the DMs. Hit the, uh, click the link to schedule some time, whatever that might be, and to figure out what that looks like for you in the totality of who you are, and why it's important to remember to celebrate who you are. And this matters. This matters because it's the core of who you are becoming. You are not just your job. You are not just mother, wife, sister, daughter, but you are fill in the blank with your name. And I, Patricia, get to enjoy life too and do things that are fulfilling to me for no other reason that I enjoy them. They make me happy. I have fun doing it, right? And if that spills over to other people, cool. But you're not doing it because of the other people. You're doing it because it brings joy and happiness to yourself. Okay, there we are. I think that's it. If I haven't described why it's so important to celebrate who you are each and every day with those stories and those expressions, I don't know what else I can say, right? But I'd love to hear from you and keep track, right? Let me know what your thoughts are here and how this is hitting you. Drop drop some comments, below and or share this out for sure. Please share this out with other people because I think it's really, really important, especially in today's time where things are so challenging all the time. People think, oh, I can't share. I mean, I don't have time. You do have time. You always have time to take care of yourself. And I'm going to challenge you to do that. Okay? Take care, everyone. Talk with you again at the next video. Bye.